Jordan Walker stood still, his jaw tightening as the woman, Madeline Brooks, according to the crooked name tag pinned half-heartedly to her uniform, barely lifted her eyes from her phone. She made no attempt to mask her disdain, tapping lazily at the keyboard as if she were being asked to do the impossible. Yeah. Nope. Don't see it, she drawled, her voice flat and disinterested. Jordan raised an eyebrow, his gaze steady. Are you sure about that? He asked calmly, his southern drawl subtle but unmistakable. Madeline huffed, finally glancing up like he was wasting her precious time. Pretty sure, she smirked, already going back to scrolling through her phone, dismissing him with the same ease someone might swat away a fly. The weight of the moment settled heavy on Jordan's chest. He'd built Walker Hospitality Group from the ground up, brick by brick, over 3 decades. The Willow Ridge Grand Hotel wasn't just a building, it was his legacy. Every square inch of this place had been designed to make guests feel like royalty. And yet, here he was, standing like an invisible man, being treated worse than some random off the street. With steady hands, Jordan pulled out his phone, scrolling through his emails until he found it. The confirmation for his stay. He held it up, the screen glowing in the warm light of the grand lobby. Here's my reservation, he said, his voice cool. Madeline barely glanced at it. Yeah, well, system doesn't lie. Maybe you booked the wrong hotel. Happens all the time. She shrugged, her smirk widening. Jordan inhaled slowly, steadying the fire bubbling in his chest. You telling me I'm lost? Another shrug. I mean, it's easy to get turned around. These places all look the same, right? Her words stung with more than just indifference. There was something else there, something colder. That was it. Jordan knew exactly what was happening. He'd seen it before, felt it too many damn times. This wasn't a system glitch. This was deliberate. She'd taken one look at him, at his skin, his clothes, his lack of entourage, and decided he didn't belong. Check again, Jordan said, his voice like steel. Madeline sighed dramatically but humored him, typing just long enough to keep up the charade. Nope, still nothing. But Jordan Walker wasn't going anywhere. Jordan Walker's jaw clenched tighter as Madeline Brooks went right back to scrolling on her phone, like their conversation had ended. That was when it hit him. This wasn't some system glitch or an honest mistake. No, this was intentional. She had taken one look at him, sized him up, and decided he wasn't worth her time. Jordan sighed, keeping his expression neutral, though the weight of it settled like a stone in his chest. All right, he said, voice steady. Check again. Madeline groaned, rolling her eyes so hard it was a wonder they didn't get stuck. She tapped at the keyboard with the enthusiasm of someone doing chores they hated. Nope, still nothing. Sorry. Except she didn't sound sorry. She sounded bored, like she'd rather be anywhere but here. Jordan stayed calm. He pulled out his phone and scrolled to the confirmation email, holding it up where the glow of the screen lit his weathered face. I have my booking right here. Madeline barely glanced, lips curling. Yeah, well, the system doesn't lie. And neither does my damn email, Jordan replied, voice low but firm. Madeline let out another loud theatrical sigh. Look, sir, maybe you made a mistake. It happens. Maybe you booked the wrong hotel. Happens all the time. Oh, Jordan tilted his head, the faintest smirk tugging at his mouth. You saying I'm lost? That condescending little smirk of hers widened. I'm saying it's an easy mistake to make. Jordan inhaled slowly, counting to 3. And if I wasn't lost? If my reservation was here all along? Madeline shrugged like she couldn't care less. Then, I guess the system glitched. But Jordan knew better. This system didn't glitch. People did. And something about the way she refused to meet his eyes, the way she dismissed him like a nobody. He'd seen that look before. It wasn't about a system error. It was about him. In 5 seconds, she had decided he didn't belong in this hotel. Usually Jordan let these things slide. Pick your battles, his granddad used to say. But not today. Not here. He pulled out his second phone, the one wired straight into Walker Hospitality Group's internal system. A few quick taps, and there it was. His reservation. Booked. Confirmed. And right there in the activity log, reservation manually deleted by Madeline Brooks. Bingo. Jordan Walker turned the phone around, the screen glowing like a spotlight in the dim lobby. Madeline Brooks' eyes flickered, her confidence draining as she read the log. There it was, her name, plain as day, right next to the word deleted. For the first time that night, she looked nervous. Color drained from her face, her lips parting slightly as she struggled for air. Jordan leaned in, his voice dropping low and steady, the kind of tone that made a man stop breathing. "Tell me something, Madeline. Why the hell did you delete my reservation?" Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. But no sound came out. She was cornered, and she knew it. Jordan smirked, watching her flounder. He'd seen plenty in his years, shady deals, double crosses, but this was personal. Madeline blinked rapidly, her fingers twitching, like she could somehow undo the digital crime sitting there on the screen. I mean, I didn't, don't, Jordan cut her off sharply, his voice like a whip crack. She flinched hard, and God, it was almost beautiful to see. Save it. She clamped her mouth shut so fast it was a miracle she didn't bite her tongue. Jordan exhaled slowly, the tension in his shoulders deliberate, controlled. A younger man might have blown up right there, but not Jordan. No, this needed precision. He leaned casually against the counter, smiling like a man who already knew the ending. "Here's what's going to happen, Madeline. You're going to find me a room. Right now." Madeline hesitated, but the way Jordan stared at her, steady, unblinking, forced her into motion. Fingers trembling, she tapped at the keyboard, the sound of cheap plastic keys clattering across the marble lobby. "Oh, okay, I found a room." "Speak up," Jordan ordered. I found a room," she stammered, shoving a key card across the counter without ever meeting his eyes. "Here you go, sir." Jordan didn't touch it. "Which room?" 1427? He sighed, slow and deep. "The worst room in the building, huh?" Madeline froze. Jordan tilted his head, eyes narrowing. "Do I look stupid to you?" No, sir." "Then why the hell are you playing me like I don't know every damn room in this hotel? I built this place." Silence fell. The lobby practically held its breath. Guests glanced over, sensing the shift, and Jordan Walker smiled, because this was far from over. The moment Jordan Walker turned toward the elevators, he felt the weight of every curious gaze in the lobby. A bellboy, suddenly interested in adjusting his little cap, avoided eye contact, but Jordan knew. They all saw what just happened. He picked up the key card slowly, flashing Madeline Brooks a tight smile. "Thanks, Madeline," he muttered, his voice laced with meaning. But this wasn't over, not even close. Once inside the room, exactly as he suspected, next to the maintenance closet with a scenic view of the dumpster, Jordan pulled out his laptop. This was his hotel, his empire, and someone in this building had the nerve to treat him like a nobody. Time to dig. Logging into Walker Hospitality's internal records, Jordan searched through staff reports, guest complaints, manager logs, anything tied to the Willow Ridge Grand Hotel. It didn't take long. Madeline Brooks' name was everywhere. Complaint after complaint, dismissing guest grievances, refusing service without documentation, accusations of racial discrimination, all involving her. Jordan's jaw tightened. She wasn't just incompetent, she was malicious. And somehow she still worked here. Why? Scrolling deeper, Jordan found his answer. Daniel Cooper, the hotel manager, a spineless corporate type who looked like he peaked somewhere around his senior prom. According to the reports, Daniel dodged conflict like it was his job. Madeline had been a problem for months, maybe years, but Daniel never had the guts to deal with it. Jordan snapped his laptop shut. If no one else had the courage, he'd handle it himself. He took his sweet time walking back down to the lobby. Madeline was still at the desk, probably thinking she'd dodged the bullet. She didn't even glance up as Jordan walked past, straight into the manager's office. No knock. Didn't need one. Daniel Cooper looked up from his desk, face paling instantly. "Mr. Walker, what a surprise!" Jordan closed the door behind him and leaned against it. "Cut the crap, Daniel. We need to talk." Daniel swallowed hard. "Of course, what can I do?" "You know what's happening at your front desk?" Jordan asked, arms crossed. I think everything's fine." "Wrong answer," Jordan snapped. "Your front desk clerk deleted my reservation." Daniel blanched. "I what? Who?" Jordan grinned coldly. "Take a wild guess." Daniel opened and closed his mouth like a fish gasping for air. It was Madeline, wasn't it?" "Ding, ding," Jordan smirked. "And you?" You let this happen." Jordan Walker stared Daniel Cooper down, watching the color drain from the manager's face. "She's not some confused intern who forgot how to use the damn system," Jordan said coldly. "She's a problem, Daniel, and right now, she's your problem." Daniel looked like he wanted the floor to open up and swallow him whole. But Jordan wasn't about to let him off that easy. After a long, deliberate pause, Jordan took a slow breath and nodded. "So here's how this is going to go down, Daniel. You're going to walk out there, and you're going to fire her. Right now, in front of everyone." Daniel's jaw dropped. "Right now?" he stammered, almost in disbelief. Jordan's eyes narrowed. "Right now." For a second, Daniel hesitated, his mouth opening as if to protest. But the steel in Jordan's gaze left no room for argument. He swallowed hard, realizing there was no escape, and gave a weak nod. "Yes, sir." 2 minutes later, the grand lobby of the Willow Ridge Grand Hotel fell into an eerie silence as Daniel Cooper shuffled his way toward the front desk. Guests on nearby leather couches paused mid-conversation, while a bellhop froze halfway through polishing a brass luggage cart. All eyes were on the manager. This wasn't something people saw every day. Madeline Brooks looked up from her phone, eyes narrowing as she caught the strange energy in the air. "Daniel?" she asked, forcing a smile. Daniel didn't smile back. "Madeline," he said loudly, voice cracking halfway through. "You're fired, effective immediately." The words hung there, heavy as a thunderclap. Madeline blinked, her mouth twisting into disbelief. "Wait, what? You're serious?" Daniel nodded stiffly. "You're done here." Panic flashed across Madeline's face. She tried to argue, tried to cry, even gasped out a pathetic, "This is all a misunderstanding." But none of it mattered. Her time was up. Jordan stood nearby, arms folded, watching the scene unfold with a smirk of quiet satisfaction. He didn't say a word as Madeline's face contorted in rage and humiliation. She glanced around the lobby, realizing every guest, every staff member, was watching her fall. With a final hateful glare toward Jordan, though she still didn't know who he truly was, Madeline stormed toward the exit, shoulders stiff and fists clenched. Jordan exhaled slowly, savoring the moment. Justice had been served. But as the front doors shut behind Madeline, part of him still felt unsatisfied. Maybe it was the simple fact that she had no idea she'd just been destroyed by the very man who owned the place. Or maybe it was because firing one toxic employee didn't solve the real problem. Daniel wiped the sweat off his brow, looking like he needed a stiff drink. "I handled it," he muttered weakly, forcing a nervous smile. Jordan let out a low chuckle. "No, Daniel, I handled it. You just stood there looking constipated." Daniel gave a shaky laugh, hoping Jordan was joking, but he wasn't. "You know," Jordan continued, his voice casual but sharp enough to cut steel, "I could fire you too, for letting this hotel turn into a damn customer service nightmare." Daniel swallowed hard, his face pale as a sheet. I swear, Mr. Walker, I'll fix everything." Jordan raised a brow. "That's cute. But no, Daniel, you won't be fixing anything. I will." With that, Jordan turned and walked out of the manager's office, leaving Daniel standing there like a man awaiting his own execution. By now, the lobby had settled into an awkward hush. Guests tried to pretend they weren't watching, but every eye was on Jordan. He strolled back toward the front desk, calm and unbothered. The remaining clerks stood frozen, their faces pale as they tried to process what had just happened. Jordan leaned casually over the counter. "Listen up," he said, his deep voice filling the space. "Things are about to change around here, fast." One of the younger clerks, barely out of his 20s, nodded quickly. "Yes, sir. Do you work for corporate?" Jordan grinned, eyes glinting. "Something like that." Without another word, he grabbed the hotel's landline and dialed a direct number to corporate headquarters. The line clicked immediately. "This is Walker," he said, voice firm. "Shut this hotel down for a full-scale audit. I want every guest compensated, every complaint reviewed, and every single employee reevaluated. If they can't cut it, they're gone. Effective immediately." Gasps echoed behind him. A maid dropped her cleaning cloth, and the young clerk's eyes widened to the size of dinner plates. "Wait, you're Jordan Walker?" someone whispered from the corner. Jordan pocketed the phone and smirked. "Yeah, I'm that Jordan Walker." And just like that, everyone understood who they'd been dealing with all along. Jordan Walker turned slowly, savoring the hush that had fallen over the lobby. Guests tried not to stare, but let's be honest, this was better than any drama on TV. Free entertainment at its finest. Jordan headed straight for the front desk, leaning casually over the polished marble counter. The remaining clerks froze, exchanging nervous glances as his dark eyes swept over them. "Listen up," Jordan said, his deep voice steady, calm, but carrying the kind of authority that demanded attention. "Things are about to change around here. Fast." A young guy, couldn't have been more than 22, swallowed hard and nodded. Yes, sir. Do you work for corporate?" The poor kid's voice cracked under the pressure. Jordan let a slow grin spread across his face. "Something like that," he replied smoothly. Without another word, he reached for the hotel's landline and dialed a direct number. The line clicked almost immediately. "This is Walker," Jordan said, his voice cool and professional. "Shut this hotel down for a full-scale audit. I want every guest compensated, every complaint reviewed, and every employee reevaluated. If they can't cut it, they're gone, effective immediately." The words dropped like a bomb. The entire staff froze. A housekeeper dropped the linen she was holding, while another clerk let out an audible gasp. "Wait," the young man at the desk stammered, his eyes wide. "You're Jordan Walker?" Jordan pocketed the phone and smiled, the expression never quite reaching his eyes. "Yeah, I'm that Jordan Walker." The room fell silent. A woman gasped loud enough to echo. The young clerk's eyes widened to the size of dinner plates. Daniel Cooper, standing off to the side, looked like he might pass out. Jordan straightened his jacket, smoothing out invisible wrinkles, and took one last slow glance around the lobby. "Now, if you'll excuse me," he said, his voice steady and cold, "I've got a business to clean up." With that, he turned and headed for the elevators. Not a single soul dared stop him. As the elevator doors slid open, Jordan stepped inside, his back straight, his shoulders squared. The second the doors closed, the tension behind him was almost palpable, like a collective breath being held. He could feel it, the weight of realization crashing down on everyone in that lobby. Oh, that was the Jordan Walker, the man who built this empire brick by brick, the man they'd just witnessed bring down judgment like a hammer. Jordan smirked as the elevator climbed. Perfect. By the time he reached his suite, his phone was already buzzing. Corporate, his board of directors. Probably Daniel, begging for mercy. Jordan ignored them all, let them sweat, let them wonder. Instead, he pulled out his laptop, sat by the grand window overlooking Pine Haven City, and logged into the system. He wasn't done, not by a long shot. Jordan's fingers flew across the keyboard as he finalized the audit orders. Madeline Brooks was blacklisted. Not just fired, she'd never work for Walker Hospitality Group again. Not in Pine Haven, not anywhere. Next, his attention turned to Daniel Cooper. Jordan paused, considering. Daniel had survived. Barely. But that leash was short. One more screw-up, and he was gone too. Then came the guests. Jordan pulled up every complaint, every mistreated guest, every soul who'd walked through those doors and left worse for it. One by one, he reviewed their stories. Ignored, dismissed, made to feel small. That wasn't just bad business. That was personal. Jordan made damn sure every single one of them was refunded, upgraded, and granted VIP status for life. Because that's how you run an empire, with respect, with pride, and with accountability. As the night wore on, Pine Haven City sparkled below him, but Jordan felt no need to celebrate. This wasn't victory, it was maintenance. Protecting what he'd built, making sure no one ever forgot who he was, or what his empire stood for. There'd be no more second chances. Not for anyone who disrespected his name, his business, or his guests. And by the time the sun rose over Pine Haven, everyone in that hotel, hell, everyone in that city, would know exactly who owned the Willow Ridge Grand. Jordan Walker sat back in the leather chair of his suite, the city lights of Pine Haven shimmering beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows. He cracked his neck, fingers flying over his laptop as he pulled up the hotel's internal system. There was no hesitation. Tonight was about cleaning house, and he'd start where the cancer began. The first order of business, Madeline Brooks, blacklisted. Not just fired, but blacklisted from every property under Walker Hospitality Group. Her name now sat on the permanent do not hire list, flagged so hard the system practically glowed. She'd never work a front desk, clean a room, or park a car at any Walker-owned establishment ever again. Not here in the Willow Ridge Grand Hotel, not in Pine Haven, not anywhere. Next, Jordan turned his attention to Daniel Cooper, the so-called manager still hanging on by a thread. Daniel had watched this hotel rot under his nose, too spineless to fix it, too scared to confront real problems. Jordan debated it for a moment. Should he fire him now? End it right here? He could almost hear his grandfather's voice. Give a man just enough rope to hang himself, boy. Fine. Daniel would get one last shot, but if he stumbled, there'd be no coming back. With a sigh, Jordan shifted his focus. It wasn't just about bad employees. It was about the guests. People who had walked into this place expecting world-class service and had been treated like they didn't belong. He opened the guest complaint logs, scanning page after page of incidents. The stories were all the same: rudeness at check-in, room downgrades without explanation, dismissive attitudes, outright discrimination. Jordan's jaw clenched. This wasn't just bad business. It was personal. He'd built his empire on respect and excellence. What had happened here spat in the face of everything he stood for. One by one, he flagged each complaint. Every single guest who had been disrespected would be compensated, fully refunded, their stays comped, and most importantly, elevated to VIP status for life. The next time they walked into a Walker property, they'd be treated like royalty. That was how you ran an empire, with pride, with integrity, and without letting anyone forget who you were. A sharp knock echoed at the door, breaking his focus. Jordan closed the laptop slowly, exhaling as he stood. He already knew who it was. Opening the door, he found Daniel Cooper standing there, pale as a sheet, hands wringing nervously. Mr. Walker, please, I had no idea, Daniel stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. Jordan leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, eyes cold. That's the problem, Daniel. You had no idea what was happening in your own damn hotel. I can fix this, sir, I swear, Daniel gulped, looking like a man dangling off a cliff. Jordan tilted his head. Did you fire Madeline? Daniel nodded quickly, desperate. Yes, just like you asked. She's gone. Jordan smirked. Good. Now, pack your things. Daniel froze. What? Wait, what do you mean? You heard me. Jordan's tone was flat, unforgiving. You're done. You let this place rot under your nose. You should have cleaned it up before I had to. Daniel's face collapsed, his lips trembling. Mr. Walker, please. I can make this right. Jordan let out a humorless chuckle, then clapped Daniel on the shoulder, his grip firm enough to make the man flinch. Relax, Steve. I'm sure there's a motel somewhere out there that'll love your leadership skills. Daniel staggered back, speechless, his face crumbling like a man just handed a death sentence. Jordan didn't blink. He didn't flinch. He just shut the door in Daniel's face, firm, final, no more second chances, not in his empire. With a long exhale, Jordan poured himself a drink, the rich amber liquid glinting in the light. He sank back into the chair, staring out at the Pine Haven skyline. This hotel would be better. The business would be stronger. And the next time some arrogant front desk clerk thought they could pull a stunt like that, they'd think twice, because now everyone knew exactly who the hell he was. The phone on the desk buzzed, vibrating against the wood, but Jordan ignored it. Corporate, the board, maybe even Daniel still trying to plead for mercy. It didn't matter. Tonight wasn't about them. Tonight was about setting the record straight. Justice had been served. And as Jordan Walker sat there sipping his whiskey, the weight of the moment settled over him. Not heavy, not burdensome, but righteous. The Willow Ridge Grand would rise again, and Pine Haven would remember the night the owner himself came down from the penthouse, not just to check in, but to remind every last soul who built this empire, and what happened when you dared disrespect it. By morning, the story would spread like wildfire. Guests would talk, staff would whisper, and the next time anyone thought about crossing a line in a Walker hotel, they'd remember tonight. Because Jordan Walker wasn't just another name on a building. He was the name, the man, the empire. And this was his house. There's a powerful lesson buried beneath all the drama and confrontation that unfolded at the Willow Ridge Grand Hotel. And it's one that sticks with you long after the dust settles. At its core, this story is about respect, not just for titles or money, but for people. Jordan Walker walked into his own hotel dressed like any regular guest. No flashy suits, no entourage. And yet, instead of being treated with the dignity every guest deserves, he was judged, dismissed, and outright disrespected. Why? Because someone took one look at him and decided he didn't look like he belonged. That right there is the problem so many businesses and people face today. Somewhere along the way, folks forget that it costs nothing to treat others with decency. Madeline Brooks didn't know who Jordan was, but that was the point. It shouldn't have mattered. Good service, fairness, and common courtesy should be given to everyone who walks through the door, not just to those who look the part. And for Jordan, it was never about revenge. It was about setting a standard, about reminding everyone that you don't build an empire by turning a blind eye to mistreatment. You build it by holding people accountable, by protecting your reputation, and by standing up when something isn't right. Jordan didn't just fire a bad employee, he sent a message, not just to his staff, but to everyone watching. Leadership means facing hard truths head on, even when it's uncomfortable. It means remembering that no business, no matter how grand, is too big to fall if you allow arrogance, racism, or laziness to fester unchecked. In the end, Jordan made it clear that integrity still matters, that behind every successful empire is a person who refuses to compromise on values. The truth is, in life, whether you're running a hotel, raising a family, or simply going about your day, how you treat others says more about you than any title ever will. Respect is earned, but dignity, that should be non-negotiable. And maybe the next time someone finds themselves at a front desk, a grocery store, or anywhere they cross paths with another human being, they'll remember this story. They'll remember that you never really know who's standing in front of you, and that the real measure of character is how you treat people when you think no one's watching.